Greetings. Through the process of scientific observation, Maria Montessori developed radical concepts that completely altered the approach to early childhood education. Although her ideas have not gone mainstream, there are schools bearing her name all over the globe. Rather than opt for stifling systematic mainstream education, many flock to the opportunity to have their child educated in a school that seeks not to program, but self-actualize them. Self-actualization is the pinnacle point of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is when the utmost happiness possible is attained. Having met all of their lesser needs, the self-actualized essentially becomes the best version possible of themselves in this world. Montessori observed how toddlers love to grasp and hold things. It is their way of getting to know the world they have entered. Thus, she implemented three-dimensional materials that could be grasped as a way of learning, such as blocks in the shapes of letters. One can recognize Montessori classroom immediately in how much it contrasts to what we see in the regular soul-crushing classroom. When a child enters a Montessori classroom, they have entered a classroom designed just for them. Child-sized furniture is found everywhere. The classroom is not just bright and ordered, but colorful and beautiful. Maria observed that a classroom of children aged 2 to 6 brought about a sense of harmony within the age groups that are normally segregated in other schools. The younger children tend to seek directive from the elder kids who themselves entrench what they learned through assisting the younger ones among them. Unlike mainstream education, where the teacher is the sole source of knowledge and focus, Montessori believed their role should be merely that of a facilitator of the child's development, overseeing as students discover and solve problems on their own and by their own interests. Children learn by moving about and interacting with their environment. Remaining seated in the same spot for long periods of time is unnatural to them. Children desire to do things by themselves and are eager to master skills that interest them independently, with an inner and innate sense of urgency as their natural motivation. Toddler absorbs all the information of their surroundings in an instant, and contemporary neuroscience suggests a vast multitude of new neural paths open every second as they do. Montessori observed that children attempt to regulate order rather than chaos when they play, and that classrooms set up with the correct environment and materials is adequate for them to gravitate toward excellence on their own accord. Maria was diametrically opposed to Skinner's concept of punishment and reward, both of which have the tendency to develop a desire of avoidance to education in young children, for the message being sent is that it is not something interesting or valuable in itself. Children may also rush through an activity due to their excitement for and anticipation of a reward or fear of punishment. The Montessori student perceives their accomplishments as the rewards they actually are, and thus a respect and love for education is instilled. For the same reason, a child is left to choose what they learn based upon their own curiosity, and they can remain on a subject as long as they like or move about to another. Someone who has an insatiable curiosity about space can learn about astronomy, whereas another who is more into plants can focus on botany. When desiring change, they can wobble over to topics on ecology, such as pollution preventative measures or anatomy, wildlife preservation, animal habitats, or math. This freedom to choose and control their education fosters a view of education as something to look forward to. Art is a big part of Montessori schools, as it helps develop and fine-tune their motor and sensory skills and express themselves. Regarding reading and writing, Montessori emphasizes phonetics rather than the symbols and their corresponding names, the opposite of what mainstream schools do. Finally, practical life activities involve instilling the consciousness and ability required to perform daily tasks such as tying their shoes, doing dishes, cleaning the environment, watering plants, setting up tables, etc. Such activities not only of interest to toddlers, but they develop a sense of success, muscle coordination, gross and fine motor skills, and the ability to concentrate. Considering the importance for children to manipulate objects in social interaction and learning, it is no surprise that Montessori prefers to limit digital learning. Nancy McCormick founded AMS, American Montessori Society, in 1960. AMI, Association Montessori Internationale, had failed to gain popularity in America, which is why Nancy altered it to fit the mindset of American culture. Unlike AMI, there is no uniformity in teaching with AMS. In AMI, one can change schools and still find everything relatively the same. Whereas outside resources are not permitted in AMI teaching methods, in AMS they are. Even admission requirements differ in each method. AMS insisted that all educators have a college degree so that the coursework could potentially be recognized by state education departments. The main reason AMI failed to get a foothold in America was due to criticisms of William Hurt Kilpatrick, a student of John Dewey, an American philosopher and educator who also believed the Montessori system was stifling creativity and was too individualistically based. Kilpatrick campaigned against it and sought to discredit it in his 1914 pamphlet entitled The Montessori System Examined, arguing that her system was a psychological theory that was outdated by half a century. Although he commended her ideas on child liberty, he perceived a contradiction that he felt Montessori lacked free expression despite providing free choice. He was virulent in his opposition to her statements regarding sense training, arguing that she could not stick to one theory. He felt Montessori lacked stories, drama, and imagination, and he did not approve the restrictions in place regarding the use of materials, preferring the children to play as they will. Although Montessori had been gaining popularity in America, his book contributed to its remaining scarce until the modifications made by Nancy McCormick. A schism, however, occurred between AMI and AMS in 1963, where the two organizations previously collaborative officially separated predominantly due to AMS providing a broadened curriculum and desiring to provide the means of transfer into mainstream education via teacher preparation programs. In essence, AMS proffers that methods should adapt to contemporary changes, whereas AMI insists on sticking to the original system regardless of societal alterations, although they have since reconciled, and as a result of her contribution, one has the option of becoming certified in either AMI or AMS. I first worked for a Montessori school in China, having no idea what to expect, or to expect anything drastically different. I was pleasantly surprised and found it fitting a great deal with my own beliefs. Although I agree with Kilpatrick regarding the importance of free expression, I have not found this to be lacking in Montessori schools. Whatever shortcomings there may be, the difference is striking the moment one walks into a Montessori school. The children are clearly more happy to be there, as their independence is valued and they have a variety of ways to learn and are not pulled into a sense of monotony. They are in their own element. There seems to be far less pressure and dogmaticism, yet one can observe the children there are more knowledgeable than those in mainstream schools. I expect this is because Maria is right, that her system establishes a love for education, rather than the perception that education is a chore akin to cleaning one's room. Even cleaning in Montessori becomes fun due to their unique approach and perspective. Since working for a Montessori school, I give preference to Montessori job offers over all others. It is difficult to implement much of the Montessori method outside of a Montessori school, but surely a teacher can respect and encourage independence and interdependence in any school they work for, offering their class choices and assignments. One could also bring in Montessori sensory materials for children to play with on their own time. Teachers might even use the Socratic method of asking questions that guide the students to the correct answer, rather than merely bombarding them with a load of manufactured information. In any school, one can make adjustments toward a more student-centered approach by focusing on the students rather than themselves as educators. In any school setting, a teacher can and should encourage ethics, empathy, curiosity, and a love of learning. All subjects are fascinating. It is the teacher or the education system itself that may make it boring. How many criticisms there may be to the Montessori method when it has never been that students are bored? Quite the contrary, they are nearly always engaged. No system is perfect, however, Montessori seems to be by far the best.